Good morning. Welcome to Christian Unified Schools and Shadow Mountain Community Church. We are really glad that you're here today. And of course, all of you who are in student body and have a choice to whether you're here. We're going to pray as we begin this very important event, and I'd like to ask you to stand with me as we do that. Almighty God, thank you for the privilege we have of being Americans, for the joy that is ours that we are privileged to live in the greatest nation on earth. We thank you that even though many of our Christian rights are being challenged, they're still in place, that we can gather here in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, not only to bring honor and glory to his name, but to officially and publicly and vocally and loudly thank him for this great nation, a nation under God. We thank you for our school. We thank you for every student in this school and for the parents that enable them to be here, for our teachers, for our administration, for all the people on this campus who facilitate this great school. And thank you for the incredible event we've already had today to celebrate our football team. And now we ask that you will quiet our hearts, each one of us, as we reflect upon what it means to be free, what it means to be Americans, what it means to be citizens of the United States. May your hand of blessing be upon all that we do today. Help our kids to play well, to sing well. Help all of us to listen well. And may we walk out of here challenged in a new and special way and what it means to be citizens of this great nation. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. You may be seated.
Ladies and gentlemen, please stand. Sorry. At this time, please remain standing and direct your attention to the rear of the venue floor. And in keeping today's theme with honoring our veterans, the presentation of the National Color Guard will be represented by Alpine VFW.
Remain standing as we recite the pledge. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. The peace and prosperity we enjoy in this country is due in large part to the protection provided by the United States military. As we honor our veterans today, students from our Christian Patriot Elementary, Junior High, and Senior High School Performing Arts programs will sing a tribute as an expression of our gratitude for the service and sacrifices made by these dedicated men and women to protect our country.
America, we can see. a month, a week, a day, an hour. I anxiously anticipate your departure. Every moment I can spare, I spend with you. Then it comes time to say it. Goodbye. I love you. Stay safe. I watch as each family says goodbye to their loved one and holds each other tightly to prepare for the coming storm. Those fleeting moments before you have to leave, to fight for our country, for us, for everyone. The drive home feels longer than the drip of molasses, and no one says a word. I sit thinking of the many days that will pass without you. The special days that you can't be here for. I know it'll be okay, even though I miss you driving me to school, helping me with homework, giving me advice, even when I think I don't need it. I miss the smile your face put on Mom, the way you'd spin me around, and the silly things you'd say to make my sisters laugh. And I fear you might never come back. I fear you'll get hurt and never be the same. A sigh of relief and affirmation every time you call. To hear your voice again gives me hope for the day you'll return to us, your family. It's hard to be strong, and harder to pretend that I'm okay with you being gone. I know you have to do your job, to fight for us, but it doesn't take away from the pain. I have to learn to be okay with your absence for a while, but it's hard. It's hard for our family. I miss you, Dad.
Whether we're facing good times or tough times, Americans are a people who cherish the blessings of liberty. Because we enjoy these blessings every day we live, we take great pride in saying, America is my country. And we'll never stop asking God to make us the nation we ought to be, to honor all He has given us.
If tomorrow all the things were gone that I worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my family by my side, I thank the Lord above that I'm living here today. 'Cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. I love this land.
There's no question about it. America boasts the finest military in the world. And our military's greatness is built not upon advanced technology or machinery, but upon the selfless and courageous spirit of the men and women who have served this country. It is due time we show them our appreciation. If you or a loved one or a member of the armed forces, please stand during the singing of the song from your branch of the military. And now we salute our armed forces.
This was great. Thank you, everyone who set a part in this. Thank all of you who helped make this happen, all you leaders and teachers and directors. And when we're looking for a speaker for our special Veterans Day celebration, we surely wanted somebody to come and tell you what it means to serve this country. And we have the privilege today of hearing from a courageous and decorated veteran from our military. Major Scotty Smiley is a graduate of West Point. In 2005, while leading his Army platoon in Mosul, Iraq, he was seriously wounded and lost his eyesight as the result of a suicide bomber. 1 week later, he woke up in Walter Reed Hospital, where he made a decision to forgive, rebuild, and continue his life serving in the Army. He became the first blind active duty officer in military history. He retired from the military in 2015 as a recipient of the Purple Heart. We are blessed and honored today as he brings a message of perseverance, courage, and hope. Will you please stand to your feet and help me welcome Major Scotty Smiley. There you guys. God bless you. Go do it. Pulpit's right here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's an honor to be here. Thank you all. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It is beyond an honor to be here this morning. I cannot believe the choir, the band is absolutely phenomenal. I cannot thank you enough for this opportunity. I'd love to talk a little bit about my life, share not just about fighting for my country, but more importantly, fighting for the Lord. I remember waking up at 2:45 one morning, not something I often do, but the reason I woke up this early is because I was going to do a triathlon that day. Again, I had to wake up that early because just the day prior, the weatherman said it's going to be hot tomorrow with a high about 105, 107 degrees. I advise that you don't go outside. And if for some reason you have to go outside, don't do anything active. Yes, and this is the day I decided to do a triathlon, but not any normal triathlon. It happened to be an Ironman. So I loaded the bicycle into the back of the truck, drove from Spokane, Washington to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, checked in, had my number on my arms, my age on my calf, pumped up the bicycle tires, headed to the beach, heard the cannon boom, then dove into the water. Around the first buoy, second buoy, hit shore, and unfortunately I was only halfway done with the swim because I had only swam 1.2 miles, another 1.2 miles to go. The crowd was cheering, my family was there, I was energetic and alive. Entered back into the water, around the first buoy, second buoy, and now was my bicycle ride, only 112 miles. Well, as I spun my legs away, finished the first loop, the second loop, and the temperature just continued to soar. As it got hotter and hotter, and the road got longer and longer. I fortunately felt still energy in my body, finished the swim, 2.4 miles, finished the bicycle ride, 112 miles. All now I had was a little jog. I think they call it a marathon, 26.2 to go. Well, just as soon as I hit the cement, I could feel the heat just beaming down on me. It was now at about 105 degrees. The ambient heat off the cement was around 135 degrees. Absolutely miserable. And only 3 miles into the race, I no longer could see the finish line. I no longer knew what I was even doing, why I was even in the race. And all I truly wanted to do was to quit. I wanted to give up. I didn't want to make one step forward. Well, I rewind several years earlier. After graduating high school, I knew I wanted to do something big. I knew I wanted to continue my education, to be smart, and to be a leader in the community. I chose one of the best schools in the world, the United States Military Academy in West Point, New York. And being from Pasco, Washington, I was a basket of tears, leaving my family, my friends, and at the time, my sweet girlfriend. But I felt it was the right decision to make. As quickly as that plane landed, I was pushed up to West Point, New York, said goodbye to my family, and crossed the 50-yard line at Michie Stadium, the football stadium, and entered into the guest locker room. Quickly, of course, my last name being Smiley, I'm all smiles. Quickly told, wipe that smile off your face. What's funny here? Quickly, they shaved my head. And I used to have a little more hair than I have now. Put a gray t-shirt on me, black shorts up my half white pasty thighs, black socks up to my knees, black leather loafers. Some of you imagine what I look like? Yes, quite funny. But luckily enough, we all look the same. You see, what they were trying to do was to break us down to a more simplistic form and to begin to rebuild us, teaching us the Army values, teaching us and training us to believe in that a cadet will not lie, cheat, or steal, nor tolerate those do. But every day, pressures in my life continued because I felt I could do it on my own. I was a hero in my high school. I was able to accomplish everything on my own. What did the academy have on me? But again, those pressures in life continued. Whether it's delivering newspaper to upperclassmen doors and then being told, ask what I read in the newspaper, to recite how many minutes until formation, what the uniform was. Everything, pressures continued in my life. I remember one day moving out 120 paces per minute. That's moving out without running. With this pile of laundry as I'm delivering to an upperclassman. And granted, I'm this 210-pound, twisted steel, sex appeal stud of a guy, at least in my own mind. And a female, about a foot shorter than me, says, "Halt, new cadet." And trust me, we realized that new cadet was a rank. Not normally on the military's protocol, but it did rank below a cadet. They let us know that. It also ranked below the commandant's dog, which I felt was a little bit of a low blow. We're now being ranked with other species, but right above the naval goat. So whatever little self-worth we had, we held on to very dearly. And as she says, "Halt, new cadet, where are you going?" I go, I don't know, ma'am. He says, "Is that one of your 4 responses?" "Yes, ma'am." "No, ma'am." "No, excuse, ma'am." "Ma'am, I don't understand." A lot of complicated conversations had at the academy. And all of a sudden, I just begin to breaking down in tears. Literally, tears are coming down my face. You see, I'm broken. I'm broken. And she says, "Stop. Halt. You need to understand the small, insignificant amount of stress that we're imparting on you right now." I didn't think it was small nor insignificant. It obviously broken me. She says, "It's nothing in comparison to in 42 months when you graduate and you're going to be in charge of men and women and lives are going to be potentially put on the line. So you need to figure out if this is the place for you. And more importantly, you need to trust in other people because it seems like you're not going to be able to do it on your own. So go back to your room and figure it out." I was like, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, Sergeant." And I had to go back to my room. I had to figure it out. You see, they had taken everything from us. Everything, stripped us of everything that we were and everything they are, that we believed in. But there was one thing that they allowed us to keep. And the one thing that I kept was my Bible. I opened it up into the book of Philippians, where Paul says, "I've been starving, I've been well fed, I've been tired, I've had well rest, I've been beaten, I've been well off, but I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." You see, he wasn't working on his own regard, but believed in Christ, that he would carry him through any struggles, any trials. And I knew I needed to respond in the same manner, to trust that God was going to hold me. You see, I was a Christian, raised as a Christian, and I believed in God. But I also, at that time, was believing more in myself than I ever should have. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to stay at the academy? And just as importantly, was I going to trust others to help me? And that's what I did. One of the better decisions I made. Joining Officer Christian Fellowship, Bible studies Tuesday nights. Decided to teach Sunday school. One of the only days that you can actually sleep in. I wake up early to go get donuts to take them and teach young kids Sunday school. It was one of the better choices that I made. And not only my roommates, my teammates, and those that had surrounded me helped enable me to accomplish the mission. Again, one of the best decisions I made. And as that female said, those 42 months flew by. Still dating my beautiful girlfriend, now my wife, Tiffany. We were married, and then I was pushed to Fort Lewis, Washington to receive my platoon. I was in charge of 45 men, 4 striker vehicles or 8-wheel vehicles, 50 caliber machine guns, had bulletproof jackets on, bullets. I felt like Rambo. I may not have looked like him. But again, the responsibilities that female said was true. Lives were continually put on the line. And it was the leadership, but more importantly, the team that surrounded me that helped us complete the mission. But just as soon as I received that platoon, we also received orders to deploy to Mosul, Iraq, to not only help fight our country's wars, but to make sure that the wars were overseas and not here in the United States of America. And I began to understand the freedoms that our country had. You see, while attending the United States Military Academy in 1999, we were a country at peace. At the beginning of my sophomore year, on September 11th of 2001, our country was attacked. Totally changed my mind on what my dedication and what service meant to me. That we required men and women to give their lives to fight for our freedoms of our country. And now that's what I was being asked to do. Again, telling goodbye to my new bride, only being married for about 7 months, headed on the flight to Mosul, Iraq. Again, I felt like I was at home because I had a purpose. I had a team that we were going to complete the mission. Every day we'd help rebuild the country, whether it's helping redistribute gasoline, helping redistribute electricity, help build hundreds of parks for the kids, build schools, handed out thousands of soccer balls and even more candy. I'm not sure the parents liked the candy we handed out. It was amazing to see the work that we did every day as we stayed together. But every day we were attacked by insurgents, whether it's rocket-propelled grenades, improvised explosive devices, or bombs in the roads, on people in cars, snipers. 6 of my men were seriously injured and had to redeploy back to America. It's hard when your unit and your organization begins to break down. But again, we believed in the team and the mission that we had in front of us. Reintegrated the men and women back in the unit, always putting the people of Iraq first in our minds and our lives. And on December 20th of 2004, it was my first wedding anniversary. It now was December 21st in Iraq, but given the 12-hour time difference, I walked very quickly to the phone as I was going to wish my bride a happy anniversary. As I called her, being 11:45, I made it in the nick of time on the 20th to wish her a happy anniversary. I told her I loved her, and then I told her I was going to head to lunch. As I ate an amazing meal and headed back to my military hooch, I saluted my company commander, my boss, Captain Bill Jacobson Jr., as he headed into lunch. Said, I'm going to head and complete my mission for tomorrow's big operation. About 3/4 of the way back to my hooch, I heard an explosion. A loud boom. Something normal that happened almost every lunch and every dinner, as the insurgents knew when we were eating, they'd shoot mortars our way. I later found out that a man had actually walked into the cafeteria, blown himself up, killing 21 men and women, and my boss, Captain Bill Jacobson Jr., taking his life, injuring hundreds of men's and women's lives, ruining thousands mentally for the rest of their lives. It was horrific. At times, what do you do? Again, I went back to the Bible of what I believed in. Was I doing what I was called to do? Was I was doing the right thing as insurgents and terror just continually surrounded me? Was that faith that I could do all things that Christ who strengthens me, that I could continue to lead my men in the right manner? As they had animosity towards the insurgents, they had animosity towards the Iraqi people. It was those values that I not only believed in, but instructed the men and women to do the right thing every single day. And as the months passed, on April 6th of 2005, we had intelligence that there was a suicide car bomb in the city. And in a city of over 2 million people, it's a little more difficult to find a needle in the haystack. But as my new boss told me, they had on-time intelligence that there was men telling individuals from the city to get out of the area, kind of a telltale sign that something could be going wrong. He told me to stay off the main highways and roads because that would be the most likely avenue of approach for an attack. And as I was heading north, and I turned right on a street, I saw a suspicious vehicle. It was a silver Opel, a small car. The back end of the car was lower than the front. Again, it being suspicious, and given the rules of engagement, you can't just shoot someone because you're scared or you may think they have a weapon. You had to know they had a weapon, and they had to have hurt someone or in the process before you can take action. So I made what I believe the best decision. I cordoned him off. I parked my striker vehicle just 30 yards to his south. I was facing east on the same road. He's facing west. No median, nothing in between us, just cement. A striker metal was all the way up to my chest. Again, I had my bulletproof jacket on, bulletproof glasses, helmet. I felt well protected. He looked over his left shoulder as I yelled at him to get out of his vehicle. He raised his hands off the steering wheel and shook his head no. Again, just an innocent man. Head was buzzed, face was buzzed, gray shirt down to his wrist. Just an innocent-looking man. But again, the suspiciousness of where he was parked and how the vehicle looked, I knew this was not something I could just leave alone. So I yelled at him again. He responded in the same manner, taking his hands off the steering wheel, shaking his head no, and then he let his foot off the brake. That's when I raised my M4 rifle to my shoulder, fired a round, crack, in front of his vehicle, and boom, my world went black. I woke up a little less than a week later in Walter Reed Army Medical Center. Later being told what happened, the man blew himself up, trying to take as many lives as possible, but instead took my eyesight, losing both of my eyes, having a traumatic brain injury, temporarily, partially paralyzed the right side of my body. My world was black, physically black, the rest of my life. But more importantly, my life also went spiritually black. See, being raised as a Christian, I didn't believe something this bad could happen to me. Something this bad and horrific could happen to someone who loved God, believed in God. Did a Bible study every week with my friends and companions overseas. Prayed before every mission, before we went out in front of my men. Went to chapel every day. How could God enable something this horrific and terrible happen to me? And I denied God. I had fear. I was depressed. And most of all, I was angry. Why God? Why me? I remember one of my best friends, Edward Graham, saying, "Scotty, do you want to pray?" I said, "No, I don't know how to pray. And I don't think I know God." But it was my wife, speaking truth in life every day, went back to her room and just prayed that God would impact my life more strongly than he had ever in the past. But you see, it was me who had to make a choice. Each and every one of us has to make a choice every day on who we want to believe in and what we want to believe in. Men and women would try to come and speak words of encouragement. Gary Sinise, the actor, who's Lieutenant Dan in Forrest Gump, he wanted to come and say hi. I said, "No, I don't want him to come in here. Don't let him in. Keep him out." Toby Keith, the country singer, want to say hi. "No, I don't want his sympathy. Don't let him in. I don't want him." And one day, I heard this little knock on my door, and Tiffany answered it. Again, me being blind, unable to move. Tiffany came in and said, "Scotty, this little boy, Andrew Harris, wants to say hi." I just began to weep. I just began to cry. You see, Andrew Harris was a little boy I had taught Sunday school at West Point to, who looked up to me every day, who I was his hero. How could I tell him no? And it hit me that God could still use me. And I don't know what manner, in what way, but I had to believe in him. And I had to trust in him and to give my life back. So after saying hi to Andrew, I had to forgive. Forgive the man who blew himself up. Forgive myself for the decisions I had made. But most importantly, ask God to forgive me, to begin to rebuild my life. And that's when my journey and recovery truly began. And that day, I wanted to get out of bed. Unfortunately, I don't think the Army had given me a shower and cleaned me up. And so I was going to get out of bed and take my own shower. Again, still temporarily, partially paralyzed. Tiffany, seeing what I was doing, she was a little scared, gently trying to push me back into bed. "What are you doing?" "I'm going to go take a shower." She's pushing the emergency button. "Help, get in here." But that's the day that I took not only the worst shower of my life, but it was the best shower of my life. As the nurses came in, put me into a wheelchair, pushed me to a shower, the only thing I had energy to do was hold on to the ADA shower handle as my knees are quivering, barely able to stand. Shards of glass felt like needles and knives prickling me. The water was freezing cold. Felt like they had Brillo pads just scraping me. And that's why it was the absolute worst shower of my life. But it was the best shower of my life because I had made a choice to take one step forward, to make one small step forward, and to build my recovery, to begin my recovery. That's why it was the worst but best shower of my life. As my recovery quickened, being pushed out to Palo Alto, California to begin Blind Rehabilitation Center, there's also things and movements that were all happening at Walter Reed that I never even knew about. You see, my wife, Tiffany, was asked, having the power of attorney, which means you can sign paperwork for someone else, to begin my medical retirement process. Colonels, VA members, hospital administrators surrounding a table. They pushed the medical documentation towards her. It says, "Mrs. Smiley, please sign this. We'll begin the medical retirement process for your husband." She said, "No, I'm not going to sign it." They looked at her more sternly, pushed it a little closer. "Mrs. Smiley, you don't understand. Your husband does not have any eyes. There's never been anyone in the military service to ever serve blind. Sign the paperwork." And she stood up. God carrying and holding her says, "No, I'm not going to sign it." That's the support that was around me that constantly helped me continue to serve. As I continued my recovery at Palo Alto, California, learning to use a stick, learning to walk, catch buses, learn how to cook and clean, two things I still don't like doing, I still had a little independent angst in me that I didn't necessarily want to ask someone where the bathroom is. And I finally asked my mobility instructor, "Where's the gym?" He's like, "The gym? What's the gym?" I go, "The gym. I need to get my swole on. What are you talking about?" And he goes, "You're swole on?" It's like, "Come on, to work out." And again, he didn't quite trust me, so he showed me. After he had enough confidence, I decided to go work out in the afternoon after my mobility and all my training had been complete. It's about 4:45 in the hot afternoon sun of Palo Alto, California, just up north of here. Headed outside, left the air-conditioned building. Heat began to beam on me. In the intersections of the sidewalks at the Blind Center, they had mats. And that's where blind people with their sticks know that this is an intersection. So I took a left. And then here comes the alleyway. Alleyways are scary because there's nowhere to hit your cane. There's nothing to tap your cane on. Successfully made it across the alleyway. Took the first right in the sidewalk, took the first left in the sidewalk. Gym was about 25 yards ahead. Smelled the chlorine, so I knew it was the gym. Got my swole on for about a half an hour. Unfortunately, I wasn't drinking water. Make sure when you work out, drink water. But in my mind, the Blind Center was only 100 yards ahead. A good baseball player could throw a baseball that far. What did the heat have on me? Headed out back in the hot sun, took the first right, took the first left. Here comes the alleyway. So scary. Successfully passed it. Now all I was waiting on was that mat. When I hit that mat, I was going to take it right. I could feel the air conditioner, the doors opening up, air conditioner hit me in my face. I could imagine how the cold water down my throat was going to feel. Oh, it was going to be amazing. No mat. No mat. Increased the arc of my cane from one side of the sidewalk to the other. I was going to find that mat. Several minutes passed, and I realized, "Scotty, you haven't found the mat." Well, like you all, when you're lost, you backtrack. Let me tell you, when a blind guy backtracks, he's a blind guy backtracking. I unfortunately stayed lost. And me kind of having no humility now, I'd yell, "Hello, is anyone there?" No answer. It being like 5:15, everyone gone for the day. I now stopped sweating. With my minimal medical knowledge, I knew this is the first part of dehydration. I knew I was in trouble. But more importantly, I knew I was alone. And at that time, I threw my stick down in anger, just crying out, "Why? Why me? Again, why this life?" You see, just because I had asked God to forgive me, just because I was now reading the Bible, having the Bible be read to me audibly, didn't mean that life still wasn't giving me troubles. Didn't mean that life was going to be easy. That I still had to depend on not just God, but those around me, just as I had at the military academy. And I also realized, not that day, week, month, but years later, that why should never have been a question that I asked. But instead, it should be what? What do I do now and how? And how do I impact those around me? Because finding the blind center, I quickly realized they told blind people not to go in parking lots. I knew where it was. And within 5 seconds, someone says, "Hey, are you lost?" I goes, "Yes, I am." Because as the months passed, I pushed from Fort Lewis, Washington, completing blind rehabilitation, to Fort Monroe, Virginia. Then I went through the medical evaluation. They found me 100% disabled and unfit for service. But there's a little caveat that I had found in the Army manual, that if you're still physically fit and mentally strong, though you do have a permanent profile like blindness, there's still a potential opportunity that you could serve. And so I asked the Army, after getting encouragement from my wife, that I could still continue to serve. And one of the reasons is I had only served 2 years on active duty. When you graduate from the military academy, you owe 5 years. And I still felt that I had not served my country enough. And so after being accepted to continue on active duty, become the Army's and the military's first blind active duty service member, I now needed to find a purpose. Still being an infantryman, they didn't give me a rifle. I don't know why. I'm sure I'll find out one of these days. But for me, I needed to find a purpose, how I could be used, how I could continue to fight. And knowing that I had amazing military members teach me at the military academy, I asked the dean, though I knew I hadn't gone to the career course, nor had a company command, 2 prerequisites to teach, he says, I could not think of a better person to teach these young, amazing leaders. Just go get a master's. So after making it to Duke University, in the back of my mind, what did Duke have on the military academy? Nothing. Well, imagine, I'm in statistics class. If you all don't mind closing your eyes real quick, everyone's eyes are closed. As you can see up here on the board with this equation, when you move the right to the left, you get this equation. You can open your eyes. That's my new life. And I quickly realized, Scotty, you can't do it on your own. You have to seek help. You have to seek a tutor. After fighting the admissions and student body, they finally gave me assistance. And after taking my first quiz in statistics, I was scared. Did I pass? They never have heard of a military officer failing his master's program. And the next day, my wife and I were praying that I passed. I went into the classroom and the instructor said, "Mr. Smiley, here's your quiz." I go, "Did I pass?" He goes, "I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you did it. You not only passed, but you beat the mean. Keep it up." And I say that not because of the work that I did, but because of the team and God that continued to hold me in truth and in faith. And those 2 years flew by, and now I found myself in front of cadets, teaching about leadership, teaching about life lessons that I had had, and leading them every day. My wife and I became a Bible study teacher at Officer Christian OCF, Officer Christian Fellowship, teaching and mentoring cadets. It was amazing to see the transformation that we were able to do. And after 1 semester of teaching, my boss said, "Scotty, I'd like to talk to you in my office." Something you never like to hear from your boss. And he said, "You've done a phenomenal job. In military progression, the next thing you need is a company command. Do you want a command?" And I was like, "Of course, but you know I'm blind." He says, "It doesn't matter. The team and the men and women that you surround yourself, you'll be successful in anything you do. Do you want the job?" Again, I asked my wife, and yes, it was. And now I found myself in charge of over 250 men and women in a warrior transition unit at West Point, New York, helping them reintegrate back into the military after they recover, or enter back into the civilian world after recovery. And again, it was the success of the men and women that surrounded me that enabled me to do the job. And after more education down in Fort Benning, Georgia, my last job in the United States military by choice was in Spokane, Washington at the ROTC program. After a great climb in a little mountain in Alaska, I realized that there may be more to my life outside of the military. So I asked my wife if she think we should retire. She says, yeah, it's about time. After 8 moves, 6 states, 3 children later, she of course has 4, me the oldest, we decided to get out of the military. But there's still something else that I wanted to do, and that was an Ironman. You see, I asked my brother-in-law, being blind, Andy, do you want to do an Ironman with me? Because I knew he had done one before. He says, of course. We just have to ask our wives. I was like, well, I don't want to do an Ironman with my wife or your wife. He goes, no, you don't understand. The commitment that we have to have in the year prior, training every day, the hours that we're going to be from home, we need our wives' approvals. And so after they approved, we began the training. It's amazing how you don't want to get out of bed when the alarm clock goes off at 5 or 4:30 in the morning, and my wife gently nudges me out of bed and says, I thought you're supposed to train today. It was that support and friends and loved ones that continue to enable me to get into shape, to wake up that morning at 2:45, back where I started the story. It was my brother-in-law's truck that we put my tandem bicycle into. He drove me to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, getting markings on our arms, our calves. He pumped up the tires, 10 psi less because of the heat, holding his arm to the shore as we listened to the national anthem, and literally tears were going down my face from all those who had given so much. We heard the cannon boom, jumped into the water. He tapped my left leg to move left, my right calf to move right. One could only imagine what a swimmer in the middle of the lake was doing. Directed me around the first buoy, second buoy, back into shore. The fans and family were cheering and encouraging us. Back into the water, finishing 2.4 miles. Now we hopped on the tandem bicycle. As I said earlier, I was pedaling my legs away, hoping Andy was doing the same. But in the end, he was doing so much more. Braking, steering, shifting gears, making sure we weren't drafting, which is something that could get you kicked out of the Ironman. Making sure we stopped every 10 miles to get hydrated and ice back in our water bottles. After a 6% grade hill for over 3 miles, I kept asking him, where's the stop? Where's the stop? He finally said, I see it ahead. We're just beyond exhausted on our second loop. And the lady, the volunteer sitting under her umbrella says, I'm sorry, we have no ice and we have no water. You're just like, where's the ice and water? And she says, I'm sorry, no ice, no water. And you just feel the defeatedness, not only in her voice, but both of our shoulders just slumped. What did we have to trust? And who did we have to trust? And again, it was God that we just went to each other and said, let's just keep pedaling. As we continued to pray that God gives us the strength to put one foot in front of the other. As we finished the 112 miles, I still felt energetic after a long day, the heat now reaching its pinnacle. And now it's me wanting to give up. Me not seeing the end of the journey, the end of the path. I truly just wanted to quit. But again, it was Andy who was by my side, running next to me, saying, do you need to stop? Do you need to walk? Do you need to sit down? Do you need water? Do you need something to eat? Friends, family, and loved ones that just kept cheering me on, that enabled me to put one foot in front of the other. As we finished our first loop, 13.1 miles down, see, Ironman has protocol. If you're behind schedule and they know you're not going to finish, they don't let you complete the race. They pull you off. And given the time that we were running, I was well behind. My wife, seeing my face, Tiffany, was pale. She knew I wasn't talking, knew I wasn't drinking. She knew I was in a dark place. And she looked at me, yelling over the crowd, and said, Scotty, you can't give up. You need to keep pushing forward. you also need to know you're not doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the men and women who never made it back. And more importantly, you're doing it for the men and women who did but are still fighting. So you better hurry up. And it's times like that you don't like it when your spouse is right. And it's amazing, and I believe a miracle, that we cut almost an hour off of our split time, that second half marathon. That last quarter mile down Sherman Avenue, I literally felt like angels were carrying me as I was running on clouds. And Ironman Mike said, there he is, completely blind, Major Scott Smiley. And then he and the rest of the crowd yelled, Scott Smiley, you are an Ironman. It was an absolute and amazing feeling. There's a quick little video that shows you the completion of the Ironman, and I'll give a short closing.
Tiffany, how are you? Scotty?
Hey, sir.
Ken Farmer, Major General Farmer. How you doing?
Good, sir.
Good, good. How's everything going?
Excellent. You guys are treating me well.
Well, that's good to hear.
I'm sure that Scotty went through many dark moments, but I'm also sure that he can see right now. And so God gave him his vision of purpose again. Maybe not the physical vision, but probably a vision that's more important, because there are many people who can see who do not know purpose. Scotty can see his purpose.
And with that, let me ask, I think Brother Neil is, who's up here from the Q course, is going to read the citation. Yes, sir. Attention to orders.
The President of the United States of America has awarded the Purple Heart, established by General George Washington at Newburgh, New York, August 7th, 1782, to First Lieutenant Scotty Michael Smiley, United States Army, for wounds received in action on 6 April 2005, given under my hand in the city of Washington this day, 11th of April 2005.
I think it gives people
signed
hope.
Secretary of the Army, James.
I mean, it's no lie that we all struggle. It's no lie that this world is full of negative things. I feel like people are wanting something more for themselves, for this country, for this world. And maybe in some small way, Scotty is a beacon of light. Scotty is a way that they can see goodness out of suffering.
Have you kind of hold that certificate, and we'll get a couple of photos. Now, Neil and Bob,
You are an Ironman! You are an Ironman! Glad you're an Ironman! Elizabeth, you're an Ironman! You are an Ironman! That's what it began to mean to me, is that we don't give up on life. We don't give up on what struggles or trials may be facing us. When God meets us and says, good job, good and faithful servant, your race is complete. Here he comes, everybody! Major Scott Smiley, completely blind! It was an amazing feeling to cross that finish line. But you see, Ironman Mike got it wrong. It wasn't just me who was an Ironman that day. It was Andy, who walked every step, spun every spin, stroke every stroke right by my side. It was Tiffany, who stayed true to me, who loved me, who spake truth to me in the hospital, prayed for me every day, who encouraged me not to give up, but to continue to put one foot in front of the other. Those were the Iron Men that day. But in life, as we struggle and trials come our way, our race is not complete. Till God says, good job, good and faithful servant, your race is complete. You see, at a young age, as I said earlier, I asked Jesus Christ into my heart. Jesus said, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but will have everlasting life. That's a decision I made at a very young age, but a recommitment I make every day, that I love him, that I believe in him, and that I live a life for him. And I encourage you all here today, the freedoms we have in this world are not free. They have to be fought for. And most importantly, freedom of believing and worshiping our God are even less free, that we have to fight for him and fight for what we believe in. And I know if we do it, and we stay true to him, we all can do all things through Christ who gives us strength. I can't thank you all enough. God bless you all, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Please remain standing. Please remain standing. Scotty, most of us will never, ever have to face what you did. Well, because you faced it, whatever we have to face, it will be a lot easier because we heard you. Thank you for coming. Before we close, we'd like to thank the families who are here today, in part because they are considering enrolling their children at Christian Unified Schools. We hope this chapel gives you a glimpse of how God is working in and through the lives of our students, and we'd like to invite you for a brief presentation across Main Street in the Event Center. Please stop by to meet our principals, hear a little more about how you and your children can become part of our Christian Unified family. And I'm going to pray, the band is going to play, and when the band stops playing, you're free. All right. Father, thank you again for this wonderful day, for our new friends who came to tell us their story. Lord, it's so easy for us when adversity comes to want to quit. And we know that sometimes you send adversity to make us strong and to give us opportunity to impact other people. Make us strong today, whatever it is we're facing in our lives, whether it's physical or family issues or spiritual challenges that we have. Help us to know that you are with us, that you never fail, and that as we have been reminded today, through Christ, all things are possible. In Jesus' name, amen.